so excited. I am Catherine Haskins. I'm one of the co-founders of the Bridge Club. My fellow partner had to be evacuated from her hotel room due to a fire, and she has now been given the all clear, so she should be running back in pretty darn quick. So hopefully Deb will turn her camera on, and Pam too, because that would be amazing if we could see everybody's faces tonight. Tonight, we're going to have a really, really cool conversation. I am so excited and that WellHaven came forward, told us all about this. I ran into these spectacular two women during WVC and was so excited. Dr. Bob Lester introduced me to them, and we're going to talk about what they're working on. We're going to talk about building this their community, and what does community mean in general. So I'm really excited. So, Brenda's back. Brenda, wave your arms. There she is, live.
Apparently.
Good. That's good.
Burned to death. It was popcorn, apparently.
Oh, is that what it was? Popcorn?
Popcorn in somebody's room microwave. Yes, set off the fire alarm.
Oh my goodness, that is hysterical. So I want to make sure we're going to do a toast here in a moment with our two, with Dr. Jen Bruins and Dr. Mary. Mary, is it Luebbers?
Yes.
Okay, I just making sure. I didn't want to be like, no, it's something very French. And I was like,
Luebbers. No.
Luebbers. Yes. So anyway, so everyone make sure you've got a beverage. I'm going to let them both give you their background and what they're doing, but I do want to, again, give a call out to WellHaven because they are the ones that brought this forward. This is an amazing conversation that we are going to be having. So no pressure, ladies. No pressure. But it's all going to be fun. So if you've got your beverage, let's go ahead and raise it. We'll start with the toast and then we'll go into full intros.
All right. Hi, guys. Thanks for being here tonight. Welcome. I won't make you carry your beverage too long, but I'm going to share one of my children and husband's favorite movies, which is The Lorax. So I have a quote from there. And in honor of Dr. Seuss, because his birthday was yesterday, as we all know. So it's not about what it is, it's about what it can become. So I thought that was going to be a real good one for our conversation today. So with that, I'm going to let Dr. Brun, let's toast.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
And then we're going to start with Dr. Bruns, and Dr. Bruns and I are just going to introduce ourselves, and then we'll move on from there.
Perfect.
So thanks, everyone. So I'm Jen Bruns, and I'm a vet with WellHaven Pet Health. I'm one of the founding members of Lead Well with Women. My role at WellHaven is centered around our provider relations. So I do a number of things, but my passion is really about our doctors and what I can do every day to engage them and make their life a great place.
Awesome. I'm Mary Luebbers. I'm a principal doctor at WellHaven, so I manage and run currently 3 of them. So it's very fun for me. I have a brand new build and then 2 acquisitions right now. I'm super passionate about leadership and development and really utilizing everyone for their skills to their full potential. That's really what makes me excited, and I love my job more and more each day, other than seeing furry friends.
Very nice. Okay, so let's dive into this. So we're gonna, before we start talking about what Lead Well for Women is, you know, Jen, why don't you jump in and talk with us a little bit about why community is important, and let's get some people's feedback on that.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, the first thing that I think I'd ask all of you, we do want to talk about Lead Well, but I think we want to talk about, before we do that, just bring ourselves out a little bit, zoom out, and just talk more about we want to do this. And it really, what Catherine just said, talks to community. And one of the most, I think I'd ask all of you, you know, do you want to be healthy? Do you want to live a long time? I think most of you would probably say yes. But part of that is then unlocking what really does provide not only just health, but really healthy people. And one of the key parts of all of this is really looking at a Harvard study. And this, some of you may have seen this. This study is about 80 years old now. It's the Harvard Study for Adult Development. It started in 1938. And in that study, what they did is they had the opportunity to look at individuals, obviously through many generations. I think there's 7 or 8 people still left in the study. They're in their 90s. And they really monitored a number of different parameters. So how healthy they were, measured by things like with their cholesterol levels. So quite a number of things. And then some kind of index to measure how healthy or happy they were. And what they could statistically prove time again was it was really about their relationships. And I think what's really important about that, in fact, one of the, Robert Goldringer, who's one of the founders of this, he said that good relationships is what you need, because good relationships equal healthy, happy people. And I think when we start to build that out a little bit more, then we look at our community and we build community on trust, and we build trust on communication. So what can we do to really get a platform of people together that could create community and trust and communication that would lead to healthier and happier people and professionals? So one of the questions I had back for you too, Catherine, we talked about this, but how many of you are actually today connected to some sort of social media or platform that you might have the opportunity to engage people in? I think that is a really important question to ask.
So you guys can either put it in the chat, you can raise your hand, you can speak up. So how many are in social media that you can engage in? Everyone raise your hand. Very, very nice. And then I'm thinking Deb probably we can't see her, but she could always put it in the chat too. Okay.
So that's something to think about. I think there's a lot of social media out there. What we want to do, just a little bit different, is instead of just having a social media platform, but really a robust community. And when we start talking about building robust communities for longevity, for people that'll be happy and healthy, we really want to challenge about how do you build a good community and what does that look like? One of the things that we've seen too is something called an upward spiral of commitment and action in community. Basically, all that means is that when one person starts to do one thing, sometimes it creates an upward spiral for other people to do other things that are positive for that community. So for example, maybe in the afternoon, there's that one kid that comes home from the playground and he's picking up trash. And then before you know it, the next week, there is a community of people and they're picking up trash. And maybe we're redoing a playground, or we're planting sunflowers. So it's all about how could one little person make one little teeny bit of difference that will actually spiral up and create this bigger platform for community. And I think when we really start looking at things like the Harvard study, again, 80 years old worth of data, showing that relationship building and trust and communication is such a great foundation for how we live our lives. And I think with Mary and I, and I'll let Mary talk a little bit about her journey here, but really for Mary and I, it was a challenge to us of how do we shake up the snow globe? How do we do things different that might challenge all of our thinking about how we connect with the profession and the veterinary community? So I'm going to let Mary take it away.
Oh. So I think Jen and I both had very similar journeys when we met. So Jen and I didn't know each other before WellHaven. I came to WellHaven about 6 months after they opened, and really I saw a lack of women in leadership where I was. I used to practice large animal medicine, and I think I saw it there a lot. That was still a very male-dominated field, and it was hard for women to get into that role for a lot of reasons. And I think mostly because the industry, there hadn't been a lot of women in that role yet. And so how do we fix that? How do we collaborate with each other? And how do we, because we've observed and experienced this firsthand, how do we fix that? And how do we evolve this industry that now has a lot more women and help and support them? And so that's when Jen and I started to really collaborate and think about, well, what can we do? And an online community made sense to us because that was a means for us to have one spot where everyone could get together and talk to each other. It wouldn't matter where you are. You could be in Australia right now, having your glass of wine, or in my case, milk, and gentlemen, and have those conversations with peers that are right next door, sitting next to you, who might have some advice and experiences that would help you. And it's an ability for us all to collaborate and get together and learn from each other, all genders, so not just from women. And so we're seeing this just not in the veterinary field, but in the animal industry and beyond. So right now our focus is really on animal health and how we can form these collaborations and support the working mom, the practice manager, the technician, the new practice owner, whether they're male or female, or the practice owner that wants to retire and has this new generation of veterinarians or animal health professionals that are coming in. What does that look like? And so that's what our vision is. It's a collaborative effort to empower people and connect and help people lead their best life. So to Jen's point, a healthy, trusting, well-being, well-rounded relationship. Like, how can we do that? And that's what this is about. That's what this community for us is about. But a part of that is learning what that community is, and continuing to develop that and make sure that what we think the community is what it is for everyone, so that we make sure that we're supporting all.
So this is why this is going to be fun, everyone, because this conversation is about how they're in this journey right now. This is not a case study of success to go, look, we built the community and look at how great we are. This is instead really trying to get some additional insight as well. And so that's what the Bridge Club is for, is kind of bring everyone together. So, let's dive into kind of what you've been finding, what you've been learning as you've been going along, and then we can pose some questions to the community. But you guys, at any time, feel free to unmute yourself and jump on in, because to me this is the fun part, is how we're on their journey with them.
I mean, most of you are familiar with the Bridge Club. I see a couple of new faces, but just to like tackle on here, the reason that Catherine and I were so excited too to bring this conversation to the Bridge Club is our whole position is to help people connect and engage and learn and grow together, and it just dovetails so nicely with what Lead Well with Women is starting out to do. So we were extraordinarily excited to, bring this conversation to the Bridge Club for some of you who are familiar with us, and then for those of you who aren't, to see how what Lead Well with Women is doing and what we're doing, and how it all works together so well to help make this stronger veterinary community. So this is lots of fun for Catherine and me.
It really is. It really is.
And I would just add, I think what we're finding, so when we started to dive into this, our goal was, how do we support women leadership? And again, it's not leading well by myself in a room with a bunch of women, it's leading well with women. So it's for in the profession, which I think is really key for us, because I've had a lot of people ask me, well, it's going to be 90% female, so why do you need this? But I think that's why we need this, because we've got to figure out the hurdles. We have to figure this out as a group. If this is going to become very female, what does that look like for all of us? And the hurdles that face. And so part of the community build, the platform's goal, is that we connect. Because what Mary and I found in our deep dive into If We Need This is that there are a lot of different little scattered women's communities out there, clubs, some online social media that are really powerful. They're very much siloed. There's no way to connect those. One of our goals is to look at across the industry, whether it's professional, the veterinarian, the animal industry, is can we provide a platform that, by the way, it's free. So even if you're in a rural community and you're a veterinary assistant, this costs you nothing, which is great for those people that can't afford to go to AVMA or Western States or whatever. You can log on and you have the opportunity to connect to a community. And the goal is maybe we can bring all of these individual siloed groups together in one platform, that you could go on to Lead Well with Women. Not only would you have content made available to anybody, again, no charge, but that you could look at, well, what's AVMA doing? What's Wadolvi doing? Elanco has a group. I could name off 50 groups right now of women topics within the profession, but getting those resources and understanding who has what is really segmented and almost impossible at this point.
So talk to us about some of the things that you learned. What are some of the insights as you guys have been going down this pathway of building this community? Because some of them I think are pretty powerful when we talk about, what do people have access to, et cetera.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of great things on the site for people. There's live chats that are on there. The site went live just this week, so we're super excited. Thank you, Juan. Big shout out to you who's on the call today. Valerie, for helping make. There's podcasts on there. There's a survey on there that really is going to allow us to get feedback, and that's part of what we're doing today, is that we really need to further develop what is this community and learn from all of you. And so we need to get a broader sense of what individuals are looking for. And so we really need people to take that survey so we can start tackling the needs for all. There's going to be online and in-person events on there. And one thing that's on there right now, in addition to all the other things I named, is the leadership tip cards. These we had at VMX. So we had a certified coach there who really allowed us, these tip cards are on there, and they're applicable to your personal life and your professional life. So managing conflict, for instance, circle of support, So things that you can really take back to your hospitals or your home life or to whatever your work environment is, and utilize those for your everyday.
And then do you have the website that we can quickly add into? Oh, there, Jennifer did already. Awesome.
Yeah,
Too busy like trying to look for it, and then I'm like, you know, making sure we get that in there. But one of the things you were talking to me about when we were kind of discussing this was that you found that people don't have a community within their workplace, those types of things. So talk to us a little bit about what you learned as you guys were beginning to start to create this, that were interesting new insights that you had not had before.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One is definitely the segment. You know, we'd go and talk to industry leaders. Again, we could throw out a number of different manufacturers, pharmaceutical companies that already had theirs. But again, they weren't connecting. So you didn't know who has what. And I think that the other thing that we found, especially as we launched this, is I think we can all sit in a room and kind of think what we need. And that's why having people go to the website, regardless of gender or your background or what you do in the profession, is important, because we want to hear from people what they think what they need, and then we can tailor this site and the community better to what the ask is. So you'll see if you go to the website, there's a survey, but it'll also tell you who's taking the survey and what kind of information we're getting back. So that's all available on the website. So it'll say, I'm interested in finances, or I need help with my children. There's information there that I think is really interesting. The other thing I think Mary and I figured out too is that we actually were approached by a lot of men that said, boy, it could be really impactful and powerful in my smaller veterinary hospital. Again, you know, maybe not even one of your bigger corporations, but just I have a hospital, there's 2 doctors, my staff is women, and I don't even know how to engage them. I don't know what to do. I want to give them something. I think that was one of our first learnings that we had, was they looked at it as a community that was accessible and, again, free, no matter where you are in the world. And it gave them another opportunity to point those hugely important paraprofessionals in the right direction towards some place where they could get some leadership growth and development as well.
So I'd love to, you know, I know we're not, you know, asking people to do the survey live here. You actually do want that written data.
Oh, come on, everybody, right now.
Right now, take the survey. But I really would love to kind of get, you know, what is it that this group looks for in a community? I mean, I think from the perspective of, you know, it's great because we have Kimberly Pope Robinson, who's on this call, and she has built an amazing community called One Life Connected. If you are not familiar with it, there's other organizations as well. So I want to be sure that, you know, we each have an objective when we do it, but what do we think that this profession needs? I mean, as we're looking at it, I'd love to get some point of view on it. What can this profession do for communities? Oh, hefty question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yeah, so yeah, I think for me, when I started a community, it was just about letting people tell me what they want more than anything. So, you know what I mean, Catherine? And so I thought, oh, the community is going to go this way, and we've got all these things to do. And then they're like, but no, we want this. So being flexible and listening and hearing what they want. And then everybody who's in the community wants to be in the community. So it's all organic, and which I think makes it great. So then it's not about forcing people to do things or trying to appease people, you know what I mean? And I guess one of the things, because we have a Facebook group, and we don't get a lot of engagement, but I'll see people at a conference and they'll be like, oh, I love that post you did. It was like from 4 months ago. And they're like, oh yeah, I go and I look at it all the time, but they're not liking it. They're not commenting on it, but that's not what it's about sometimes. It's just being able to see it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think they then feel like they're part of the community, but they'll make comments here and there. They'll share random posts. And I think that's what it's all about, is just letting it be its organic self, but having a little structure, but being flexible with that structure as people to kind of tell you where you want to go.
Kim, you make a really good point there too. I mean, Catherine and I have learned a lot. I'll just share it real quick with everybody who's here too, as we've done the Bridge Club now going on 3 years, that especially when you're getting into emotional subject matter, you don't get large groups of people, but you get people who are immensely grateful for the sharing and for the sense of community and people who understand where they've been. So we've learned a lot about the fact that our goal has never been to get big numbers ourselves, kind of like you, Kim. It's like, get the people who need to be there at the time they need to be there to learn what they want to learn. And, you know, and having people come and go as the conversation strikes them or as the need arises in them. And that's kind of the cool part of being able to, as we're all here now, right, being part of this community who raising our hand and saying, we want to be a part of being available to people who can learn from us or learn from people we bring into our groups too. It's a really powerful thing we're doing.
Very, very powerful. And then like, have we ever noticed any geographical differences, Brian was asking, in interest and desires? Is there kind of any correlation? He's a data guy. He loves his data.
I like the website. I think the only thing we just noticed has been the rural versus urban and access to information.
Mhm.
So if you are in a small, again, same thought, you're in a smaller veterinary hospital or rural, you can't go to your local VMA meeting. It's extremely expensive to go to a big meeting. This seems to be very engaging for those people, to that type of person, because, and again, I would just say from VMX, which is not really great, statistically significant, but the number of international students and professionals we talked to that were very interested. Again, they're interested in something the States has to offer coming into VMX, all the time is expensive, or Western states. And so we did get a lot of very strong international interest in this when we launched. I think that was very surprising for me so far.
And where internationally? Are they English speaking only, or are you getting
all over, right? China was actually one that we got surprised when we started talking to individuals.
Interesting. Wow.
That
Yeah.
is really interesting. And is there a commonality in what they're looking from a global I'm very, lately, Brenda knows, I am like all about what's happening globally. We're going to have a great conversation next week. We're bringing in Canadians, and it's awesome. But I am curious, is there any familiarity or similarity in what the folks from overseas are actually like interested in by chance?
I think the ones I talked to were just mostly interested in somewhere they can go where they physically don't have to be there. Resources available to them, because traveling for them, like Jen was saying, is expensive and time consuming. And I also got the feeling from them that there weren't resources for them in the areas that they were at. And so this was a way for them to be able to access it and talk to people outside of Australia or England or China, and really kind of partner and communicate with the United States.
So go ahead, Brenda.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you see the question in the chat? I think it's a really good one. It's like, how do you keep things positive during conversations? When you feel a little discomfort, and that's part of the challenge, right? But sometimes, and I don't mean to just keep speaking out, but Catherine and I have struggled through this a little bit too, right? Because we're pretty peppy, positive people, but sometimes it's okay to be sad. It's okay to let that anger or that frustration or that sense of despair kind of come through. And that's why people are there to help hear you, help listen to you, not always have the solution to the problem, but sometimes offer it up, as in what Kimberly does, but also just to be a sounding board to hear you and say, you're not alone in this too. So it's not always about trying to make it positive, it's just about being present.
Well, and to that point, we've had, I'm sorry, really quick, to that point on the startup, a lot of people dial in early. Today, people were pretty prompt, but we've had where people just come in and go, can I just complain about my day for a minute? And so they've asked to come in because they need somebody to hear them. They just need, to commiserate together. And so I think that just having that extra person on the other end is always important. But sorry, Jen.
No, I appreciate what Kim said, because I think what happens is we all get connections in Facebook. How many LinkedIn connections do you have? How many Facebook friends do you have? But are they a relationship? Going back to that Harvard study, have you, kind of to Brenda's point, have you had the ability to connect so you could share that? So you are going to be discomfortable, or you might be uncomfortable. There might be some discomfort. So how do you bridge that? And I think that's the idea here is with that community is there's so much power in that. So Kim can post something or share something, and she has no idea what her impact is. And these platforms done right can be incredibly impactful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I am curious, and so not to, because I also know Bob is on here, so Bob might want to chime in on this one, but it is very insightful for a company like WellHaven to try to tackle this. So I am curious of just kind of the support internally with this idea. Kind of, did you guys run into any hurdles there, or is that just, no, this is exactly what the profession needs? I'm just kind of curious a little bit about that.
Yeah, I guess for me, this was my why of WellHaven. And I think as we went out and started developing who we were going to be, this became a pillar pretty quick. Super lucky that everyone that's in WellHaven supported this. So again, we're linking arms with our male colleagues who are bringing us forward. And it's enough of a pillar of who we are as a professional organization to carry that out through the profession. It's not Mary and I in a room. It's linked arms with Bob, with John, with all of the founders to move forward in this endeavor.
I think that's fantastic. And a great note to say, we are at the 25-minute mark. So if anyone needs to exit this point, they certainly can. But now comes the after party. And this becomes a little bit more of, you guys can completely all unmute your lines. You've been all able to do that all along. So you don't just hear Brenda and I yammering on. But we love to talk and we'll keep talking. But we really want to kind of dive into more on community, because I will say today there was an amazing piece, and I could not find the article, and I was going to post it in here this morning. That was actually, well, it wasn't an article, it was a news segment that was on CBS Sunday Morning. It was how they ended their show today, and they talked about a new study that had come out that had indicated, or a woman that came in, she was on LinkedIn. There was another study they talked about too, but the woman on LinkedIn indicating that there's this new kind of secret parenting, but that they're trying to break it out of the mold because women who are mothers in the workplace have had to sneak out of work in order to do things that they need to do, and they don't have the support of their work environments to be able to also be parents, and that seems to be starting to blow up. And they went through all this different information about how, and with all due respect to both Brian and to Bob on the phone, they were saying men get it lucky because when they talk about their children, and they do talk about their children, there seems to be more of support when the men talk about their children rather than when women talk about their children in the workplace. That is beginning to shift and change. But it was a very interesting idea of how the community within the workplace also needs to evolve to help support women. So I found that to be really fascinating. I was going to share it, but I obviously couldn't find the link.
Bring up a good point, Catherine. And I think those of you who work in the veterinary practice know that even more, you feel it more deeply than people who are in, other jobs. Right? Because you are committed to your patients. You have to be there because patients are going to show up. It's not like you can leave the paperwork on the desk or finish the reports tomorrow. You've got people coming in who need you. So, it makes it more difficult to walk away. And you combine that commitment to your patients with the guilt of the commitment to your family. And I can only imagine how hard, whether you're a man or a woman, how hard that must be relative to kind of publishing and advertising jobs, for example, that Catherine and I have had over our careers. But it's the time is coming. It's interesting. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on out there, and a lot of amazing women leading different ways of heading veterinary practices that are making, and men that are making that more possible, which is, to me, extraordinarily cool for this profession to see that.
So I'd love if people could also put in the chat, what is your favorite community that you belong to? I'd love to hear that from folks. What is your absolute favorite community besides the Bridge Club, which we do know is your number one, and Lead Well for Women will be number two, but we'll just go with other communities because we all have them, right? That we belong in. I'd love for people to just throw that in the chat to see. Ooh, AAFP, love that. I've been too busy having. I'm with you, sister. Oh my gosh, I'm with you.
Now that's where this is perfect though, because we're talking 25 minutes or so, right? So you can spare 25 minutes for your mental health.
Love that. Love that.
And I was just going to say, in that Harvard study, that's actually one of the things they teased out, was a lot of people said, I'm too busy to do a relationship. And so how
Well, I love that Dana put CrossFit gym because that's interesting because that is,
Yeah.
they have done something so powerful to create the idea of community and self-worth. And they really do such a yoga on there too. Again, that seems to be more the physical piece, right? Get your mind, body, and soul. I think is absolutely fantastic. Okay, running clubs, love that. Facebook groups. I love all those running clubs on Facebook. I have to agree. I'm one of those people. Parent groups. Just found out. Apparently there's a parent group just for Illinois parents who are sending their kids to Ole Miss. Guess who just signed up? I have no idea if it's going to provide me any value, but it's definitely very excited. Okay. Oh, grandkids. Okay. Grandkids. Yeah. Is that a community, Mary?
It's Mary's community.
It's like, I've got 3. If it's more than 1, it counts as a community.
I think they count as a community.
Yeah,
So,
right.
just saying.
I think that's
But
awesome.
to clarify, Catherine does not have 3 grandkids because her daughter's just getting ready to go to college. So no grandkid action going on there yet.
Yeah.
Right, Catherine?
No.
Is there something we don't know?
No grandchildren. One
Okay.
and only kid. But I do think, so let me ask you this. You've all put in those communities. Now, what do you get out of that community? I'd love to hear that. So even you, Allie, who says you have no time for community, you do. So what do you get out of being with other people, whether it's physical or through Facebook? Love
That's
to
a
hear
really
that.
good question, Catherine. What keeps you going back to those communities? Yeah.
Encouragement, inspiration. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What does OTF mean? OTF.
Lisa,
Who's
what's
smart? It's not, I didn't just swear, did I?
It's Orange Theory Fitness. I didn't want.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I'm like, did I just say something about that I shouldn't have? Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been.
I hear Orange Theory is like the latest cult. If you're into, we like to get really, you get.
Well, anytime
physically-
there's an F in anything, you always go, ooh, did I? Yeah.
Right.
Look at all the yoga
Okay.
stuff too, though. Man, you guys are shaming me. I'm gonna have to try yoga again.
Well, I told her to pack her shoes when she travels, but yeah.
Hey, I've got my flip flops. I do walk.
So what would you all recommend that without taking the survey yet, because we're not, and I haven't seen, I should be looking at it, but what would you love to see Lead Well for Women include? Without knowing, just as what you're looking
That's a
for.
good one.
Yeah.
Body positivity. Oh, you and me both, Trisha. You and me both. I'm all in that one as well. Any thoughts?
I'd really like to see it include, I know you mentioned it, but include more of the technicians too, and the way of getting them as a technician being more involved in, their well-being as well as the veterinarians. And I think one of the ways we can do that is to make sure veterinarians know how to properly utilize their technicians so they can get out on time.
Yeah.
Good.
Mary, do you think, to that question on like technicians, do you think that technicians are less likely to seek out professional groups compared to veterinarians?
Well, I guess you got to define professional, but there's a lot of veterinary technician groups on social media.
Right, yeah.
There are,
A plethora of them. I think some of them are just basically rant sessions so that they can just vent. But I think they're willing to look for it. I think a lot of them are afraid to do something, maybe, I'll just throw this out there, but like, this organization, because they think it's only for the veterinarians and they're just afraid to be involved. So I think, reaching out to them specifically and inviting them into the community would be huge.
Yeah.
I will say it's probably one of the greatest things that Brenda and I did initially was really work closely to be able to build a good technician base for the Bridge Club. I think that was really powerful because I am always enamored at how many techs we end up recruiting in and the emails we get from just from all across the profession. So I know that we're very, DVM focused, but I do think that that's huge. I'm going to echo that with Mary, just because I think the techs play such a powerful role in this profession. I am not a technician, so, yeah. And also to Julie too. Julie ended up helping us build that list with the Bridge Club. So we need to give, hey, Julie, for helping us out with that and making sure. So that's huge.
Yeah, it is. So I just want to like raise a hand here and say it is 8:35, so we can spend a few more minutes. Normally we try to have our after party end, about 10 to 15 minutes after the normal ending time, just because we promise everybody that we try to keep this short and succinct and have you walking away with a lot of thoughts in your head. It's not necessarily to get them all out on the page or into the camera, even though Catherine and I do try sometimes. We can't help ourselves, but we would like to encourage everybody else to have a chance to speak up a little bit too. If you've got a thought in your head now you want to share with the group, or a question or a challenge to put out there after this really great conversation we've been having the past half an hour, now would be a really fantastic time to do that.
Any additional thoughts?
Can I say something?
Go for it, Allie.
Okay. So a question for Mary and Jen. I have not been to the website yet. I'm super excited to check it out. Just curious, what are you, what's your launch pad? What is the first kind of issue or conversation or platform that you're going to start with? Or do you have multiple, kind of a multi-prong approach? And of course, Bob, we haven't heard from Bob, so if he wants to chime in, that'd be great too.
Okay, well, I'll take that. So if you go on the website, there's a couple of things. One, we are still looking at the survey to see what we get. The other thing is there's some coaching tools, and no charge, then we can download and print, and they deal with things like career and how you provide mentorship support. There's a couple of interesting tools in there I've actually not seen before. So I was really appreciative of those. There's also a live feed, so you have the opportunity to go through and see what other groups are doing. And specifically targeted towards leadership and women's issues that are there as well. So again, it is really designed to be different than like a Facebook, because it's a different platform. It's a community platform. It's developed to get a lot of information to you in a very short place. The other thing that we really like about this particular platform is when you sign up, and depending on how you've set everything up, you can get emails that'll tell you what's updating on the site. So you don't have to always go check it. And so if your specific things you're looking for, it'll email you, and it hopefully decreases the time that you have to spend scrolling through and looking for information as well. I think that for all of us that are very busy, that could be really helpful.
That's cool.
This is Bob, Allie, and all credit to Jen and Mary. When we started talking about this several years ago, I sat down and started to write a business plan that included all the different pieces that were going to be on here, all the audiences it was going to take care of, had all the pieces all lined out. And wiser heads, those being the two on the call with us today, said, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes here. Let's just see what the community wants. Just back up, Bob, and let's see what happens with this. And that's the direction we're going, and clearly it's the right direction.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I was trying to pull
So cool.
my other piece. I was trying to look at it, so I simultaneously had it on there and here, because as we all know, what is not allowed at the Bridge Club? PowerPoints. Sharing screen. We don't do that. So yeah. So you're forced to have a conversation, but I was trying to pull it up really quick, and I was taking my eyes away from the conversation, so that wasn't very fair.
And maybe one other quick thought, Catherine, before I lose it, is as we bring this together, one of the other things we're looking for, and Jen and Mary in particular, are collaborators, partners, subject matter experts, content. We would love to have Animal Policy Group and NAVTA and Kim Pope's group and anybody else that wants to come to the table. The umbrella is wide open. We want to bring everybody under it. So feel free to reach out to Jen and Mary. We'll see how we can get you involved and bring all these great minds to bear.
And the Bridge Club, because then maybe there's something else there. Just saying. You never know. You never know.
You never know. No, exactly. That's what's so fun though, right? I mean, we're such a collaborative group, all of us who are here on this conversation tonight. There's plenty of room in this profession for more than one idea. and plenty of room in this profession for more than one voice. So by really reaching out and putting our arms around each other, together we're going to do a whole lot more than we each do in all those individual silos. So really, really fun to bring like minds together and, you know, get together and push that rock up the hill. So we really appreciate that WellHaven chose to come have a conversation like this with us on the Bridge Club, and really, really excited that all of you who are here with us tonight chose to be here to, you know, to contribute your thoughts to the conversation too. That's the specialist part.
So any parting thoughts before we do our final toast? Jen, do you have any of those?
Well, I would just say, you know, my parting thought is that, you know, good relationships keep us happy and healthier. So again, I think there's so many great relationships and communities out there, bringing those together. And that's what we want to see for the longevity of the profession.
Okay, so parting toast, my friend.
So I would just say to relationships built on trust and health and well-being, and here's to all of you in Mindful March.
Thank you. Yes, Mindful March. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
That is awesome. And I will say in the theme of Mindful March, on the 10th, we have a great conversation coming forward. We're going to really dive into where we stand with diversity. And then on the 17th, we're going to be doing mindful medicine.
Dr. Dave, well, some of you know Dave and how much fun he is. So that's going to be pretty groove-wa to bring to the Bridge Club.
And then on the 31st, we are going to be having a conversation on how to have a conversation for when things are very serious about suicide and well-being in the workplace, specifically in the hospitals, and how you can bridge those conversations to make sure that we're all really looking out for one another. So we will be bringing that conversation. So we are definitely being mindful here at the Bridge Club.
In March.
In March. All right, guys, listen, you all have a great evening. Enjoy yourselves, and thank you for coming.
Bye.
Goodbye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.